The origin. TB in humans can be traced back to 9,000 years ago in Al Yam, a city now under the Mediterranean Sea, off the coast of Israel. The earliest written mentions of TB were, in India, 3,300 years ago, and China, 2,300 years ago. Throughout the 1600 to 1800s in Europe, TB caused 25% of all deaths. We need also to mention that TB is also found in animal, particularly the bovine family. We can conclude that tuberculosis has been part of human life since the dawn of time. Tuberculosis and discoveries. Robert Heinrich Hermann Koch was born on December 11, 1843, in Clausthal, Germany. Dr. Robert Koch is best known for isolating the tuberculosis bacterium. He won the Nobel Prize in 1905 for his work. He is considered one of the founders of microbiology, and developed criteria. Because of his works and discoveries, millions of lives have been spared. Treatment and medical care. In the early 1800s, as treatment, a concoction of cod liver oil, vinegar massages, and inhaling hemlock or turpentine, and, in 1943, antibiotics were a breakthrough in TB treatment. From the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC's) documentation, today, 4 drugs are used to treat TB disease: isoniazid, 1951, pyrazinamide, 1952, ethambutol, 1961, and rifampin, 1966. This 4-drug cocktail is still the most common treatment for drug-susceptible TB. In 2021, CDC released new interim guidance for a 4-month rifapentine moxifloxacin treatment regimen to treat drug-susceptible TB disease. That is as effective as the standard 6-month regimen for TB treatment. In addition to treating TB disease, we can treat latent TB infection to prevent the development of TB disease in the future. In 2020, CDC and the National Tuberculosis Controllers Association, NTCA, published new guidelines for the treatment of latent TB infection. CDC and NTCA preferentially recommend short-course, rifamycin-based, 3 or 4-month latent TB infection treatment regimens over 6 or 9-month isoniazid monotherapy. Thoracentesis is a procedure in which a doctor uses a needle and catheter to remove excess fluid from the space between your lungs and the wall of your chest, known as the pleural space. You might also hear this procedure called thoracocentesis, pleural aspiration, or pleural tap. Doctors do thoracentesis to both remove the excess fluid and find out what's causing it. They often use ultrasound imaging to guide them as they insert the needle through your chest wall and into the pleural space. Depending on how serious your condition is, this can be a short, outpatient procedure. TB is an infectious disease, meaning it can be transmitted from person to person. When needed, the patients needs to isolate it from the population. They are put in quarantine. And in some cases, the person would be sent to a sanatorium to be treated. Death and recent cases in the U.S. Before we continue, please help sharing awareness and keep our communities and cities safe. Subscribe, like and share. The World Health Organization estimates a total of 1.3 million people died from tuberculosis in 2022, including 167,000 people with HIV. Worldwide, tuberculosis or TB is the second leading infectious killer after COVID-19, above HIV and AIDS. We can also mention that the number of TB cases declined considerably in 2020, coinciding with the COVID-19 pandemic. And we can also observe that since 2020, tuberculosis case counts and rates have increased each year. During 2023, a total of 9,615 tuberculosis cases were provisionally reported by the 50 states and the District of Columbia, D.C., representing an increase of 1,295 cases or 16%, as compared with 2022. The rate in 2023, 2.9% per 100,000 persons, also increased compared with that in 2022, 2.5%. 40 states and D.C. reported increases in 2023, in both case counts and rates. Symptoms and signs. To check if you have tuberculosis, TB, look for the following. Symptoms of tuberculosis, TB, usually come on gradually. Common symptoms include 1. A cough that lasts more than 3 weeks. You may cough up mucus, phlegm, or mucus with blood in it. 2. Feeling tired or exhausted. 3. A high temperature or night sweats. 4. Loss of appetite. 5. Weight loss. 6. Feeling generally unwell. Children may also have difficulty gaining weight or growing. If TB has spread to another part of your body such as your glands, lymph nodes, bones or brain, you may also have other symptoms, including 1. Swollen glands. 2. Body aches and pains. 3. Swollen joints or ankles. 4. Tummy or pelvic pain. 5. Constipation. 6. Dark or cloudy P7, a headache 8, being sick 9, feeling confused 10, a stiff neck 11, a rash on the legs, face or other part of the body. Sometimes you can have TB in your body, but have no symptoms. This is called latent TB. If you have TB and you have symptoms, it's called active TB. If you have any of the following: a cough for more than 3 weeks. If you are feeling tired or exhausted and you're not sure why. If you have a high temperature or night sweats that do not go away. If you often do not feel hungry. If you keep losing weight without changing your diet or exercise routine. If you've spent a lot of time with someone who has tuberculosis, TB, and has symptoms, for example, you live with someone who has it. You should seek medical attention. Impact of economics on public health and safety. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas on its website, in an article written on January 2023 that, families have grappled with surging prices over the past 18 months, as the cost of meeting basic needs rose. Consumer prices were 7.1% higher in November 2022 than a year earlier. And nearly half of Americans report feeling very stressed by inflation. The pressure on the families also hurt the capacity to afford rent. This situation pushed families and friends to move together, creating an environment where personal and private become limited, which create a greater risk for sharing germs and especially airborne diseases as tuberculosis. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas on its website would also argue there is a greater inflationary pressures on renters. Because rents have been one of the largest drivers of inflation, renters are more vulnerable to shelter inflation than owner-occupants with a mortgage. Since most have low fixed-rate mortgages and are not affected by rising mortgage rates. By contrast, the majority of renters face annual or more frequent rent reviews and have experienced quite large cost increases over the past year. As the Fed Chair Powell noted, without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. Our hope and expectation are a stable economy where family can afford food and shelter. These two elements are fundamentals in a communities to prevent spread of diseases by avoiding promiscuity, but also having a well-fed population with stronger immune system. If you have learned from the video, please share the knowledge for safer and healthier community. Subscribe, like and share with a friend.